Part 47. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 462. When Blanca walked to the living area, the sun had already set and it was already dark. Looking at the crowded wooden sheds and walking on the road that was only more than 2 meters between the wooden sheds, Blanca's heart was full of panic. She was afraid to see her parents, very afraid. A vampire was calling out the names on the list. This was a level 1 vampire, and he would lead the blood servants down the mine tonight. Going down the mine was the most tiring thing. There was bad air, seeping rock walls, a cave roof that could collapse at any time, and gas that could explode. The vampire was in a very bad mood. Seeing a patrolman appear at the end of the alley, the vampire was surprised. Not only the level 1 vampires were surprised, but the blood servants were also surprised. There was no police station in the Ruhr mining area. I don't know why the patrolman appeared. I'm looking for these 2 people. Blanca showed a card to the level 1 vampire. She remembered that the address her parents left was nearby, and they should be able to find them here. As Rudolph said, Blanca's patrolman uniform played a big role. Level 1 vampires didn't want to get involved. Since the patrol was looking for someone, they would give it to her. These 2 people were just blood servants and miners. It was nothing serious. The vampire saw the name on the card and said, "Oh, lucky, these 2 are alive. They are on the day shift and will come out of the mine soon. If I meet them, I will ask them to come here to find you." The vampire pointed to the duty room next to it, indicating that she could wait for someone in the duty room. Blanca entered the duty room, which was filled with the smell of blood. The vampires often ate here. She looked out the window and watched the blood servants walk out of the settlement in teams led by the vampires. She was a little happy knowing that her parents were on the day shift. The day shift was better than the night shift. There was no light in the mine. If the day shift worked in the mine, they could return to the settlement at night and still have some time for themselves. If the night shift worked in the mine and returned to the settlement during the day, they could only sleep during the day and could not even go out. After a noise, the settlement suddenly became much quieter, and the blood servants all went to the mine. Half an hour later, the settlement became lively again, and the blood servants who changed shifts came back. 2 hunched blood servants, a man and a woman, entered Blanca's field of vision. When she saw them for the first time, Blanca quickly took a step back. 2 years later, Blanca was still afraid of them. In the night of blood fog, the scene of the 2 of them biting their brother and sister to death made Blanca tremble all over at any time. Blanca didn't even care about the bloody smell in the duty room, and took a deep breath, forcing herself to overcome her fear. There was a knock on the door outside, and Blanca stared at the door panel, as if there was a terrifying monster behind it. She was a level 1 wizard, and she should not be afraid of blood servants, but the situation now was just the opposite. Her parents were Blanca's closest support, but after that night, they became murderers and man-eating monsters. Taking another deep breath, Blanca walked to the door and opened the doorknob. Then she immediately turned around, walked to the chair, and quickly sat on it. The 2 people outside the door came in. They didn't know who was looking for them. They only heard the captain say that someone was looking for them in the duty room. After becoming a blood servant, all social relationships collapsed. The couple depended on each other and supported each other to survive. Blood-red pupils, pale wrinkled skin, drooping shoulders, hunched waist, torn linen shirt, bare feet, these are the parents Blanca saw. Even more surprised than Blanca were Blanca's parents. The 2 middle-aged men fell into a trance in an instant. After 2 years of not seeing each other, Blanca had grown a lot taller, and her facial features had lost the appearance of a child. She also wore the clothes of a patrolman in the police station. Blanca's mother couldn't help but take a half step forward and then stopped. She raised her arm more than 10 centimeters and froze in the air. Her fingers were trembling. The blood-red pupils should have been surrounded by whites, but at this moment they were covered with bloodshot, making her eyes red. Blanca's father opened and closed his mouth, wanting to say something, but the long fangs in his mouth made him unable to speak. He just looked at Blanca, his only daughter. Growing up means that parents are getting old. When old parents stare at themselves, there will always be a moment when a strong emotion rises in their hearts. It turns out that parents are so old, it turns out that parents care about them so much, it turns out that parents are so reluctant to leave, but what have they done? Blanca stood up from the chair and put a smile on her face. She walked over, opened her arms, hugged her father and mother's shoulders, and whispered between their shoulders. I have found out that after the blood race creates a blood servant, the toxins in the blood will make the blood servant go crazy and lose control, leaving only the bloodthirsty instinct. I forgive you on behalf of my brother and sister. If they know the truth, they will definitely forgive you. Dad, Mom, please hold me, okay? This dad, Mom has already broken the psychological defense of Blanca's parents. Her mother hugged her daughter tightly and cried loudly, and her father's shoulders twitched up and down, and tears had already flowed like a column. The crying in the duty room made the passing blood servants couldn't help but look sideways. 2 years have passed, why are there still people crying so loudly? Isn't the period when there were crying everywhere in the settlement over? Could it be the miners who just found out that they were made into blood servants? Because this room is the duty room of the blood race, no one dared to come in. After the three of them released their dark emotions, Blanca reached out to wipe the tears off her mother's face, but she couldn't wipe them clean. No matter what, we are all a family, we are the closest and most beloved family. Mom, Dad, I'm leaving. You have to take care of yourselves here, I will come to pick you up. As Ahriman said, evil will be punished, and those people should be punished. Even if it is a small resistance, a small price, they must see it, so as to stop them from wantonly creating human disasters. Blanca untied her knot, and her will became more determined. The mother wanted to say something, but was stopped by her father. He saw the determination in his daughter's eyes. His daughter had grown up, just like he felt that his daughter had magically become a patrolman. They didn't understand what his daughter was going to do, and they couldn't provide help. It's better to encourage silently. Blanca left the cabin. She was very poor and had nothing to give to her parents. Her parents were even poorer and had nothing to give her. Material poverty is not terrible. Blanca rubbed her eyes that hurt because of too much tears, and her eyes were full of determination. Evil will be punished, and from today on, this is also her principle. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 463. Rudolph had just locked onto the target. In the distance, a vampire had more than a dozen refugees in front of him and 4 blood servants standing behind him. That vampire was the one who was creating the blood servants. This is just a pie in the sky for the refugee miners. As long as they believe the Blood Clan's sweet words, the Blood Clan can easily turn these people into blood servants. The blood servants behind him should be the blood servants he just created during this period. Ahriman, your level 2 relic has been found. This Blood Clan will be the one. I hope he can drop blood-sucking fangs instead of bat wings. Teacher, what should I do? Go up and kill him directly. Do you think you can easily defeat the level 2 Blood Clan? No, they can fly. So, you can use a simpler method. Your identity is a witch hunter. You can just walk over openly and then notify him to return to Lehman Town for investigation. When he falls into our hands, it will only take a word to deal with him. I understand. We are witch hunters now. Our identities are different. We can't treat things with the mentality of a wizard. Ahriman was about to leave the alley where he was hiding when Rudolph pressed his shoulders. Rudolph's sight fell to a place farther away, where a refugee was outside a wooden shed, with his shoulders exposed and his arms raised. "Who is that?" Rudolph had just finished speaking when a gunshot rang out. The flames from the muzzle flashed, and an alchemical bullet went straight to the vampire's forehead. The killer didn't even look at the result of the shooting, and turned and left. Rudolph shook his head. It's so easy to get a relic, but it was ruined. But Ahriman shouted softly, "Teacher, that's Blanca." Blanca. Blanca also came to the Ruhr mining area by train. From the way she acted, it seemed like she was here to snipe someone. A hole appeared on the head of the fallen vampire, and the sound of flesh and blood sizzling could be heard more than 10 meters away, and black smoke was coming out. Level 3 alchemical bullet. This is not a common product. Only Kelita nearby can make this kind of bullet. It may really be Blanca. Ahriman could distinguish Blanca's body shape. Even if Blanca was disguised, all the details were the same as those of the refugees. The refugee miners were startled by the gunshots and had already fled. Several blood servants surrounded the vampire, seemingly wanting to protect him. Blood servants are also called the descendants of the vampires. Their hearts and blood systems have undergone qualitative changes. Instinctively, blood servants will remain loyal to their vampire ancestors. After the vampire died, a large group of castle bats suddenly flew out of the darkness behind him. These bats flew around in a disorderly manner, emitting inexplicable ultrasonic waves. Rudolph cast his eyes toward the castle in the distance, where a group of castle bats also flew from the high tower. Castle bats have their own way of transmitting information. The castle already knows that a vampire has died here. Blanca's work is too rough. Ahriman was very anxious, but the teacher just walked slowly towards the dead vampire, so he had to follow. In fact, he wanted to chase Blanca more, hoping that Blanca would be okay. Standing in front of several blood servants, Rudolph said, "Witch hunters are chasing fugitives. Please leave this place to us and we will take care of it." Several blood servants looked at each other, until Rudolph showed his witch hunter badge. The blood servants believed Rudolph's words. After the blood servants retreated to a distance, Ahriman squatted in front of the vampire and saw the fangs in the vampire's mouth, emitting a faint blue light. Luckily, Ahriman took off the vampire's fangs by checking the head. A starlight water snake appeared and swallowed the vampire in one bite. Before leaving, Rudolph also explained to the blood servants intimately, "We will take the body away first, don't be afraid, we will give you justice soon." The castle in the Ruhr mining area is now the nest of the Fast family. For a while, the castle bats flew out in an overwhelming manner, like dark clouds at night, and rushed to the place where the accident happened. These bats blocked the moonlight, making the already dark settlement even darker. When more than a dozen vampires folded their bat wings and landed, they saw nothing but a few bloodstains on the ground. "Where are the people? Where is your vampire father?" In response to the vampires' inquiries, the blood servants had to say, "The witch hunters took away the adults' bodies and disappeared in an instant." Witch hunters? How could there be witch hunters here? The blood servants saw the flash of red bloodlines in the night, and then fell to the ground one after another, stabbed to death by the bloodlines. Chase. The Ruhr mining area is the territory of the Fast family. The death of a vampire is a vicious incident that only happens once a year here. Therefore, the vampires of the Fast family searched the settlement area like crazy. Under the sky full of castle bats and flying vampires, Rudolph took Ahriman to shuttle through the alleys. There are castle bats under every eaves, and these castle bats monitor all abnormalities. If ordinary people broke into the territory of the Blood Clan, these castle bats alone would be difficult to deal with. Ahriman didn't know what method the teacher used. These castle bats completely ignored the two of them and let them shuttle back and forth. Soon, Rudolph found the place where the castle bats in front of him were obviously denser. A large group of castle bats hovered in the air like a tornado, indicating abnormalities for the Blood Clan. On the ground, Blanca, who had changed back into the patrol uniform, looked at the dense castle bats in despair. Not only were there castle bats, but also blood clans kept falling down beside them. They folded their bat wings and looked at Blanca struggling in the bat group. A patrolman? The two leading blood clans looked at each other, wondering why a patrolman appeared here. However, no matter what the reason, the castle bats were all over the settlement area, and there was no blind spot in the surveillance. Since the castle bats marked her as an enemy, what just happened must be related to this patrolman. A dozen blood clans suddenly rushed towards Blanca, and the scarlet bloodlines and blood cuts pierced every joint of Blanca. If they succeeded in their attack, Blanca would instantly lose the ability to move because of the pierced joints. Teacher. Ahriman himself was not able to deal with so many castle bats and blood clans, and he hoped that the teacher would take action. Without disappointing Ahriman, Rudolph sighed and said, "Why is the patrolman of Kelida so troublesome? Unlike me, I didn't cause any trouble to Claude at that time." Vanya rushed out of Rudolph's palm. Under the pressure from the upper vampires, all the castle bats fell to the ground, and all the vampires froze in place. The night sky here suddenly became much clearer, and Rudolph appeared in front of Blanca. "Patrolman, why did you kill that vampire?" Blanca suddenly gave up resistance. If the witch hunter knew that she killed the vampire, she would definitely die. Because that vampire was originally from the Ravno family, and later joined the Fast family. A friend of mine said that evil must be punished. Rudolph's hood turned, and he looked back at Ahriman in the hood. It turned out that Ahriman influenced Blanca. At the same time, Blanca suddenly raised his gun. Ahriman was startled. Blanca should not shoot his teacher. However, Blanca's gun was pointed at a vampire who was standing still. After one shot, the vampire was also hit by a level 3 alchemical bullet, with black smoke coming out of his head and the white bones in the wound burning. After doing all this, Blanca put down the gun, as if she had accomplished something great. She turned her head and looked at the witch hunter, "Come and arrest me." However, she heard the witch hunter ask her, "Is that vampire also a vampire from the original Ravno family?" "Yes, before I came, I remembered the appearance of the surviving vampires of the Ravno family clearly, and I can't be wrong." "Very good, you are very good. I see that you have a unique bone structure, 1 in a million, and both your character and ability are worth my training. From today on, you can also call me teacher." Blanca felt that the scene was a bit unreal. In the distance, there were overwhelming castle bats, and there were hundreds of vampires with bat wings spread out among the bats, but the witch hunter in front of her actually asked her to call him teacher. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 464. Blanca, call the teacher. Ahriman was anxious at the side. Teacher? Huh. It's really not the fault of Blanca's slow reaction. The dark cloud-like castle bats and vampires are in the background, but someone here asks her to call her teacher? The witch hunter stood there, paying no attention to the countless castle bats and vampires, just waiting for Blanca to recognize him as his teacher. Wait, why did the voice of the person who just called her name sound familiar? Blanca looked at the source of the voice. In order to convince Blanca, Ahriman lifted some hoods and revealed his face. Blanca was even more surprised to see that it was really Ahriman. When did Ahriman become a witch hunter? Didn't he still want to take revenge on those murderous wizards a few days ago? Blanca didn't care so much at this time and hurriedly shouted, "Hello, teacher. Okay, our school has grown again, and now 2 wizard apprentices have officially become my students." For Blanca, the amount of information in this sentence was too much, causing her brain to shut down. Has her identity as a wizard been revealed? Exposed to a witch hunter? But why did the witch hunter in front of him accept her as his student? Ahriman pulled Blanca to his side and whispered to Blanca, "Leave the rest of the matter to the teacher, we don't have to worry about it." A group of vampires landed one after another and saw two witch hunters and a patrolman standing in a square, with a dead vampire body next to them. The rampage of the witch hunters and patrolmen made these vampires not sure what to do. Soon, the other vampires moved out of the way, and Brian, a big shot of the Fast family, a level 4 vampire and the mine manager, landed in this small square. Brian glanced at the corpse of the vampire on the ground. The wound was caused by an alchemical bullet. He was in a bad mood. Two vampires were attacked inexplicably tonight. Witch hunter, according to the agreement between the Fast family and the Alchemy Council, the Ruhr mining area is owned by the Fast family. Why did you kill two of my vampires in the Ruhr mining area? Rudolph said, this is indeed what the agreement stipulates. However, the Judgment Office received reports from refugees that when they came here to work as miners, some vampires violated their will and made them into blood servants. As you can see, the witch hunters and the police department of Lemontown organized a joint operation to investigate the refugee blood servant incident. The agreement between the Parliament and the Fast family was signed early, and it did not include the new refugees. There was no provision in the agreement that the refugee miners also belong to you. Brian frowned. Recently, some low-level vampires were indeed making blood servants. When the Fast family took over the mining area, it was before the night of the sacrifice. The council needed a blood family and approached the Fast family. On the night of the sacrifice, there were not enough people in the Dordo district, and many low-level vampires were not assigned blood servants. From Brian's point of view, this matter is not a big deal. I don't know why the Parliament sent witch hunters and patrolmen to investigate this matter. Is this an excuse to beat the family? It shouldn't be. Recently there has been a lot of wizards in Fabro City. The Furnace is a very scary wizard. The Fast family is very honest. They don't even go to the boundaries of Fabro City. They can mine with peace of mind and even talk about the Wolf King tribe. They didn't interfere, they just wanted to be safe and wait for the trial hall to arrest the Furnace. Witch hunters, there may be some refugees who have become blood servants. Isn't it inevitable that they want to gain immortality, extend their lifespan, and take the initiative to find vampires to complete the transformation? If people who have never seen blood servants think so, it is indeed possible. However, refugees have seen the life of blood servant miners. You don't really believe this rhetoric, do you? Are you really using eternal life to defraud refugees? It seems that this matter is more serious than the incident of individual refugee blood servants. Director of the vampire mine, you'd better give me a reasonable explanation. Faced with the aggressive witch hunter, Brian became even more angry. You can investigate, but why do you want to kill people? Why do you want to kill the vampires of the Fast family? We have no choice. When investigating these two vampires realizing that his criminal behavior had been exposed, he resisted fiercely. The young patrolman next to me, who had just joined the job, was excited and accidentally killed two vampires. Excited? Accidentally? Is this the principle of your judicial office and police station? No wonder the Furnace is targeting you, it's so shameless. As soon as Brian was about to say it, he should let the Furnace make these people in the council remember it for a long time. You don't need to worry about the Furnace. Now I'm just talking about the refugee blood servants. These two vampires deserved their death. It is these two vampires who are making blood servants. The evidence is conclusive. I can even find those who have just become blood servants. Refugees. The blood servants are still gathered around the place where the first vampire died. Is this happening? Brian turned to ask his men. One of his men hurriedly said, I'll go take a look right away. If there are any refugee blood servants, I'll bring them over. Everyone waited patiently, and in the direction where the first vampire died, the bats in the castle suddenly became restless. Soon, the vampire returned to the small square. "Lord Brian, there are no blood servants there, and there are no refugees nearby who have become blood servants." Rudolph shook his head, marveling at the shamelessness of the vampires. The restlessness of the bats in the castle should be due to the smell of blood there, and the vampires got rid of the blood servants. Those poor blood servants were actually killed by their own family. "Witch hunter," Brian's voice rose several notes, "you slandered us without any evidence. There are no refugee blood servants at all." Rudolph said, "I admit that I made a mistake in my work. I didn't expect you to destroy the evidence in this way." Brian spread his bat wings behind him, and two blood tangents hung on his hands like long whips. Each of the castle bats around him was wearing a blood tangent, which was the attack form of the 4th level vampires. "Witch hunter, you have been wrong about one thing. Even if we make refugees into blood servants, what's the matter? I will send someone to contact the parliament and ask the parliament who the refugee miners belong to. Before getting the answer, none of you can think of leaving the dungeon of the castle." Rudolph shook his head and said, "It was originally an individual case. If you really think so, then I will talk to Fast on behalf of the Alchemy Council of Fabro City. Refugees are refugees, not your candidate blood servants." The reason why Rudolph talked so much with them was to wait for the vampires to clear the scene. The blood servants around had long been driven away by the vampires. If only the vampires were left, it would be much easier to control. He said, "Take me to see Fast." "Humph, Lord Fast, can you see him whenever you want?" The next second, Brian suddenly heard a sound explosion. A voice came from behind Brian, causing Brian to sweat a lot on his neck. "Take me to see Fast." Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 465. Brian led the way in front, followed by Rudolph, teacher, and students, and then more than a dozen vampires. Brian knew that the dozen vampires behind him could only give him courage, and the rest could do nothing. Just now in the square of the settlement area, Brian recognized the ability of the Witch Hunter, which was the sonic boom flash that only the level 5 vampires had. In other words, the Witch Hunter behind him had a level 5 vampire magic weapon. Just when Brian was worried about gains and losses, Rudolph's voice came from behind. "Vampire Mine Manager, let me show you a document." Brian hurriedly stopped and took the document. This is a certificate that the Witch Hunter Rupert can fully represent the Fabro City acting speaker Aiden in everything. Brian did not doubt the authenticity of the document. No wonder Aiden could become the speaker. It turned out that he had a level 5 magic weapon in his hand. Rudolph said, "Vampire Mine Manager, I hope you can think of a way to conceal the news that I have been here. You are very good at this, just like silencing those blood servants." Brian nodded quickly, "I understand. There were only my direct blood descendants at the scene just now. No one else would know that you have been here." Rudolph nodded with satisfaction and signaled Brian to continue forward. The cold moonlight cast from the window, dividing the window sills and shining on the ground. In places without windows, there was only one candle lit every 10 meters on the wall. The vampires have good night vision and can see clearly in the dark environment. Aramon and Blanca are the lowest level in this group. They both feel that this castle is so dim that they can't see the dim road clearly. After walking for a long time, the group came to a hall. "Aren't we going to the bunker?" Hearing the witch hunter's question, Brian explained, "Mr. Rupert, since the furnace appeared again, our ancestor Lord Fast has moved his sleeping ancient golden coffin from the bunker to prevent any unexpected situations. Your concerns are reasonable. The furnace has brought great pressure to our trial department." "He is really a difficult wizard," Rudolph said. "Vampire Mine Manager, take this certificate and go to see Fast. Just say that I am representing Arden as the acting speaker to discuss something with him." Brian took the document and stepped back carefully. The witch hunter with a level 5 relic must be a very important figure in the parliament, and he must maintain enough respect. Brian disappeared into the high door opposite the hall. A few minutes later, the two doors leading directly to the roof opened. "Mr. Rupert, our ancestor Lord Fast invites you in." Rudolph nodded and walked towards the high door. Behind the door is a very long hall. At the end of the hall, there is an ancient golden coffin. The dim candlelight shone on the ancient golden coffin, making the golden light of the golden coffin a little dim. There were very complicated patterns on the coffin, dotted with gems. There was a circle of red diamonds around the coffin lid. It was not easy to find so many red diamonds. Ahriman and Blanca were attracted by the golden coffin, while Rudolph looked up at the roof. This long hall was like a church, with a height of more than 30 meters. There were tall and thin windows on the side of the long hall, and a round window at the top of the window. All the round windows were open, allowing Rudolph to see the starry sky outside directly. Rudolph, who had mastered the sonic boom flash, understood that these round windows could allow the level 5 vampires to escape from this long hall instantly. The golden coffin was at the end of the long hall, and it would take some time for Rudolph to walk over. He hated these formal things. This was a certain atmosphere-creating technique. If it was an ordinary vampire, walking in the towering long hall, the sound of footsteps echoing in the empty long hall, the worship of the ancestors would become stronger and stronger. When Rudolph got closer, a dull voice came from the golden coffin. "Witch hunter, I heard from Brian that you are discussing something with me on behalf of the City Council Speaker Arden." "Yes. Acting Speaker Arden asked me to tell you not to turn refugees into blood servants." There was no reply from the golden coffin. After waiting for a few seconds, Brian reacted, "Witch hunter, don't go too far. We are in a cooperative relationship with the Alchemy Council, and we are not your subordinates." Rudolph put down his hood. He wore the hood for too long tonight and felt a little stuffy. "Come out, fast, this golden coffin is very valuable, I don't want to break it." Brian suddenly felt a little flustered. What was he going to do? Rudolph raised his hand. Acting Speaker Arden said that if you don't agree, then find a way to make you agree. Several starlight water snakes suddenly flew out of Rudolph's sleeves and rushed towards the golden coffin. Fast in the golden coffin would not sit still and wait for death. The lid of the golden coffin was moving at an incredibly fast speed, rushing straight towards Rudolph. If hit by this heavy pure gold coffin lid, the bones would be instantly crushed into powder. However, a flame had already appeared between Rudolph's eyebrows, which was the manifestation of the power of the word spirit Larry. A dull sonic boom suddenly appeared in the golden coffin, and the blood filled with the golden coffin suddenly dispersed into a blood mist. The next moment, Rudolph appeared in front of a high-side round window. After Rudolph stabilized his body, a figure appeared in front of Rudolph, a long-faced man with his hair combed back. There was still residual blood between his hair, making his hair sticky. The absolute profit in 1 second, coupled with the sonic boom flash, this combination made Rudolph not know how to lose. "I think the best way to keep you from touching the refugees is to kill you." As soon as the voice fell, 2 more sonic booms appeared in the long hall. In front of another high round window, Rudolph stopped fast again. Dead vampires will no longer create blood servants. This time, before Rudolph finished speaking, Fast had already flashed away. However, he was stopped by Rudolph again. "I heard that you used blood samples to make blood servants from the people in the Dordo district on the night of the sacrifice." Fast looked down at another witch hunter and patrolman in the hall. After the sonic boom, Fast suddenly appeared behind Ahriman and Blanca. The two did not even react, and saw Rudolph standing in front of them, and a starlight water snake stabbed back. "The Red Wolf King is dead, and you must die too." After the sonic boom, Fast disappeared again. Fierce air waves appeared in front and behind him, blowing Ahriman and Blanca to the ground. What kind of battle was this? Not only could they not see clearly, but the air waves stirred up by the battle alone made the two lose their balance and sit on the ground. There were sonic booms in the long hall. Fast was running away and Rudolph was chasing. Brian, who was splashed with blood mist, reacted. The actions of his ancestor Fast reminded him that he could threaten Rupert with witch hunters and patrolmen. With bat wings spread out behind him, Brian quickly flew towards the two. His blood tangent pierced the chests of the two first, and the blood tangent went straight to the hearts of the two. As long as it entangled the heart, it could threaten Rupert. A black shadow flashed by, and Brian froze in place, and the blood tangent could no longer move forward. Because one of his blood tangents pierced a person's head. When the black shadow stopped from the high-speed state, Brian saw that it was his ancestor, that was Fast. Brian, I hope you can be obedient next time, otherwise I will tell everyone about your parricide. Brian's face was ashen. Parricide is the greatest sin of the Blood Clan. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 466. Don't come in. It's okay here. Lord Fast can handle the problem here. The sonic booms in the long hall of the Golden Coffin made the surrounding vampires extremely nervous. They all rushed to the long hall, and the panicked Brian immediately shouted to stop the vampires outside. As the most powerful vampire in the Fast family besides the ancestor Fast, Brian's orders were still very effective. Lord Fast has just taught the witch hunters a lesson. Lord Fast is going to enter the Golden Coffin again. No unrelated people should come in. The vampires outside understood that it was no wonder there were sonic booms. It turned out that Lord Fast had awakened from the Golden Coffin and deliberately taught these rampant witch hunters a lesson. Brian's last few words were unclear. His mouth was full of blood bubbles, and there were streams of toxins in his blood. Not only in his mouth, but also on Brian's neck exposed to the outside, blood bubbles swelled up one by one, and the blood bubbles were covered with purple blood vessels. For vampires, parricide is more than a moral issue. If it is a moral issue, then it is simple. It can be solved by abandoning useless moral values. The ability of the vampires comes from the first embrace of the vampire ancestors. Every vampire has part of the blood of the vampire ancestors in their blood. Parricide is a curse, a blood poison curse that comes from the depths of the bloodline. For all the vampires who kill their parents, the blood cells left by the ancestors during the first embrace will become the most violent toxins, torturing the descendants to death. Just a dozen seconds later, Brian's clothes also bulged with large and small lumps, and many blood bubbles appeared on his body. Brian looked at Fast opposite and saw many penetrating wounds on Fast's body. The witch hunter didn't know what means he used, like a laser-like attack method, leaving more than a dozen wounds on Fast's body. And the most fatal injury came from Brian's last blood tangent puncture. His attack pierced Fast's heart, and the weak Fast couldn't avoid this light blow. Many abilities of the vampires come from blood. For example, the bat wings are covered with blood vessels. The power of these blood comes from the heart. Once the heart ruptures, the entire blood supply system will be greatly affected. Especially Fast is so weak at this time, and several important arteries have been burned by the witch hunter. The poison attacked the brain, and Brian's mind was in a trance. He saw the witch hunter again at this time, and suddenly remembered what the witch hunter had just said, "I hope you can be obedient." "Mr. Rupert, I will be obedient, I will respect you as I respect my ancestors, please save me." Rudolph came to Brian, and Brian had collapsed on the ground. "Is this the parricide blood poison? The effect is really strong. I heard that some people can survive the parricide blood poison, but the blood poison will break out from time to time, which makes the vampires not so." Looking at Brian's appearance, Rudolph felt that Brian was not likely to survive. A starlight water snake emerged from Rudolph's sleeve. The translucent dark blue snake spit out its tongue, which was searching for smells and probing towards a blood bubble. Brian looked at the starlight water snake and suddenly widened his eyes. Nantian, Nantian wizard. You are the furnace. Rudolph said while studying the parricide blood poison, I hope you can use you when you call me in the future. Rudolph's attitude of not denying made Brian's hair stand on end, even the hair on the blood bubble stood on end. Unexpectedly, the furnace was hiding in the trial office and acting on behalf of the trial office. But the furnace's actions were so much like a witch hunter. Coming to the Ruhr mining area to investigate a case was not something a crazy wizard would do. The starlight water snake explored up and down, constantly collecting something with its tongue, and its cold vertical pupils made Brian's scalp numb. Suddenly, the starlight water snake opened its mouth and bit the artery on Brian's wrist. The two fangs bit down and pierced Brian's artery accurately, and the fang's venom tubes injected a stream of toxins. Brian looked at his arm in despair and began to turn purple. Was it going to fight poison with poison? Soon, the purple color began to transfer to his body, and he saw a blood bubble that was propped up and turned purple. The starlight water snake let go of his wrist and rushed to the blood bubble on his arm. This time, the starlight water snake did not poison again, but the venom tube began to extract toxins. The toxin just injected has a marking function, which can mark the blood cells left in Brian's body by the blood poison of parricide, that is, fast. These blood cells have mutated. After being sucked away by the starlight water snake, the blood bubble quickly became much smaller. Brian could not feel the piercing pain in this shrinking blood bubble. It turned out that the furnace really had a way to save him. But think about it, this is a furnace, a wizard that makes the release implementation and even Vichy County helpless. After sucking away the poison, Rudolph took out a glass bottle, and the water snake put two fangs on the mouth of the bottle, and two streams of venom flowed from the fangs. Parricide blood poison, this is a good thing, it is very effective for you vampires. Rudolph looked at the venom and said, Brian, follow my orders next, otherwise, I will inject this poison back into your body. Don't dare, don't dare. Just after dealing with the blood bubble, there are at least thousands of blood bubbles on Brian's body. Thousands of tiny starlight water snakes emerged from Rudolph's sleeves, and after these water snakes appeared, they all swam towards Brian. Brian suppressed his fear and let these water snakes drill into their clothes, wander around his body, and pierce the blood bubbles one by one. Even in his mouth, nostrils, and ears, there were small water snakes crawling in. A few minutes later, these water snakes finally ate and drank enough, and after getting enough parricide toxins, they returned to Rudolph's side. The water snakes left the toxins in the glass bottle, and finally Rudolph had a bottle of parricide toxins. Not bad, not bad, this toxin is very targeted, and I will have spare toxins when I see your vampires in the future. Brian got up from the ground with difficulty and said, Mr. Furnace, you don't need these parricide toxins, and you can easily deal with any vampire. Don't be so absolute. What if you encounter a level 6 vampire? My scorpion toxin may not be as useful as this parricide toxin. Blanca's eyes moved away from Fast's body. At this time, the starlight of the level 5 relic was not as shocking as this news. What did Brian call the teacher just now? Mr. Furnace. Blanca turned her head to look at Ahriman and saw Ahriman nodding in the hood, and the hood also swayed up and down. Is it really a furnace? Was it the forge that saved her during the night of blood mist, the forge that allowed her to become a wizard's apprentice after the night of sacrifice? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 467. Brian controlled his heart to beat at full speed, allowing his blood to flow to every corner of his body in the shortest time. He checked his body in this way. However, he found that his parricide toxin had not been completely removed. After careful perception, he was not in danger of life now. There was some blood poison, but it did not affect his actions. Brian did not know whether he should use a tactful way to remind the furnace that there were still residual toxins in his body. He thought of another bad possibility, that this was intentional by the furnace, deliberately leaving some parricide toxins. The horrible behavior of the furnace next dispelled Brian's idea of asking. He saw the furnace come to Fast's body, take out a dagger, and cut off Fast's 4 bat wings. This tragic scene of watching a part of the body of the same kind being taken away made Brian more afraid of the furnace. This is also the reason why wizards are hated, more hated than zombies. Zombies will also use other apostles as raw materials, but at least they use whole corpses, which looks much more civilized than wizards. The dagger was very sharp, and the sound of the blade cutting through cartilage and webbed flesh made Brian's muscles contract uncontrollably. Rudolph got the level 5 Batwing, which was a very important relic. All the Southern Sky secrets related to flight or speed would use Batwings, which were secret relics of several Southern Sky constellations. For example, the Vela secret would use level 5 Bloodline Batwings. Perhaps the canvas material of the Vela constellation was made of this kind of fleshy webbed wing. The huge level 5 Batwing disappeared in Rudolph's hands, and the relic turned into a meteor in the star map and flew to the Libra constellation. Libra Alpha 2 was lit up, and the progress of Libra reached 1/5. Libra is a small constellation and will be lit up soon. Rudolph did not have the joy of obtaining the second wind forbidden technique, but became hesitant. He now encountered a problem, that is, the side effects of the wind constellation. The forbidden arts of the 3 water signs, the 3 forbidden puppets, did not feel anything for Rudolph, who was a Scorpio wizard. Learning the forbidden arts of the water signs did not burden the water wizards, as if it was a natural process, as it should be. The 3 water puppets were like being dissolved into Rudolph's body, and he could control them very freely. The forbidden arts of the 3 fire signs, the Lion Star Fire, the Sagittarius Finger Fire, and the Aries Pupil Fire, made Rudolph burn his own blood every time he used them, and he could not use them too much in a battle. The more he used them, the worse his condition would be. The forbidden arts of the wind signs, like the forbidden arts of the fire signs, also had relatively serious side effects. The first forbidden art of the wind signs he used, the Gemini forbidden art, the split seed, planted the second personality of Arden in Arden's soul. Every time the second personality affected Arden, that is, when the split seed worked on Arden, Rudolph would also hear a lot of mumbling. Just like the mumbling of the full moon moved to normal times, Rudolph could hear the conversation between Arden and the second personality almost every day. He must manipulate these whispers, use the power of the twin stars, increase the activity of the second personality, and thus affect Yadin. Such behavior makes the whispers that Rudolph usually hears more intense. It has been nearly a month since the split seeds were planted, and Yadin has not been completely controlled by the second personality. Or, Rudolph himself is overwhelmed by it and tortured by the whispers, and has not been able to force the control process of the second personality. Anyone who has 2 people quarreling in his mind every day will also feel uncomfortable, which greatly affects Rudolph's sleep and mental state. Therefore, if this second wind phase forbidden technique is still a mental control type, Rudolph wants to delay the progress of lighting up the star map. The soul is a forbidden area for humans and the most vulnerable part of humans. Anyone who plays with the soul will eventually fall into an abyss of no return. Regardless of the side effects of the forbidden technique, Rudolph is ready to see the reward after lighting up the Libra Alpha 2 star. Among the 3 options, Rudolph chose the Nantian secret method. \U0026LT, Secret of Nantian Tianyan Constellation. Star chart hexagram of Tianyan. Main relic level 5 Silver Snake relic. Secondary relic level 5 Blood Clan relic, level 5 Wind Wizard relic. Ritual location: direct shot area of Tianyang constellation, Papua Islands. /U0026GT. The secret of Nantian Tianyang constellation. It is understandable that the Blood Clan relic is used, proving that Tianyang wizard has the ability to fly. It is also understandable that the Wind Wizard relic is used, proving that Tianyang wizard has the attack ability of Wind Wizard. However, the main relic is actually a level 5 Silver Snake relic, which makes the difficulty of this constellation secret formula rise sharply. In the southern continent, Tianyang is also called the Bird of Paradise. Maybe Tianyang wizard has some degree of connection with some aspect of happiness. I don't know how happy paradise is. I am very curious. If I meet Nantian Tianyang wizard, I must discuss it with her. Seeing the furnace of thinking after harvesting the relics, no one dared to remind him until Rudolph finished thinking, and then he walked towards the golden coffin. There was only a little blood left in the golden coffin. Fast was also hot-tempered. He used a sonic boom to flash in the golden coffin and blew away all the blood. Brian, refill the golden coffin with blood. I will send a vampire here in a few days and let him sleep here. Sam, the level 1 vampire trapped in love, was still circling around Kelida. It was time to help him upgrade his level. Love makes people confused, and Sam was lost in his attachment to Kelida. Brian nodded quickly. I will follow your orders, Mr. Furnace. Call me Witch Hunter Rupert outside, don't reveal my true identity. Okay, Mr. Rupert. Fast's death is still easy to hide. The Blood Clan is always sleeping. The higher the level of the Blood Clan, the easier it is to sleep. It will not be a problem for Fast to not show up for several years. Clean up here, we will leave tomorrow, Rudolph said. You find a reason and tell the parliament that the mine area will reduce production recently. The Ruhr mine and the Wolf King tribe can cooperate to reduce production reasonably. The parliament has no good way. I hope this can help the Count of the Golden Anchor on the front line. He does not want the nobles to lose badly. If the nobles lose, the control of the alchemists will be stronger. A chaotic kingdom is more suitable for people like Rudolph. By the way, don't develop refugee blood servants anymore. This is what we are here for. Let the Blood Clan be honest. Aren't tens of thousands of blood servant miners enough for them to use? Brian nodded quickly, as long as the furnace said it was right, even if he thought the reason was false. In his opinion, the real purpose of the furnace was to come to the Ruhr mining area, first disguised with the letter of the Speaker of Arden, to easily meet the ancestors of Fast, and then violently hunt for the relics. Hunting for the relics of the level 5 Blood Clan was the real purpose of the furnace. The furnace actually said that he came to investigate the refugee blood servant incident. Is hunting for relics just an excuse, and investigating the refugee blood servant is the real business? Oh, too fake, too hypocritical, but too terrible. How can the wizard be so shameless? Until the end, Brian did not mention that he still had the blood poison of kinslaying in his body. This is definitely intentional by the wizard, and it is kept as a means to control him. But what can we do? The wizard did not say, so when to suck out the blood poison of kinslaying for him next time depends on his performance. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 468. Brian led the way, with 2 witch hunters and a patrolman behind him, and shuttled through the castle, heading to the guest room set up for distinguished guests in the castle. The Blood Clan castle was terribly quiet. There was no noise here, and no Blood Clan was encountered along the way, as if all the Blood Clans were sleeping. Even if the Blood Clans in the distance moved, they would be like bats, without any sound, and even their communication could be heard through inaudible ultrasound. All this made the castle echo with only the footsteps of Rudolph and the other 2, and Brian walked without any sound. A long life represents boredom. When a person has experienced a lot of enjoyment, his threshold will become very high, so high that what he does is completely incomprehensible to others. For an ordinary farmer, finding a woman to marry is the most important thing for him when he is young. He heard that some big businessmen rented an island and found hundreds of beauties on the island to live for a week, and he thought it was so absurd and strange. Then, can it be his turn? Ordinary things can no longer arouse the interest of the hundreds-year-old blood clan. They are not surprised that the ancestor fast received a distinguished guest. Perhaps in the past hundreds of years, fast has received many envoys of a certain speaker like Rupert. The only thing that left a memory for the blood clan was that the distinguished guest witch hunter first made trouble in the mining area tonight, and then was dealt with by the ancestor himself, and now he was given a very high courtesy. Such a distinguished guest has a bad attitude, but he is of noble status. Brian was also a little abnormal tonight. His movements were slow. He went to the VIP guest room in person. This is not what Brian should do with his status. Only when Speaker Arden comes in person and Brian takes him there is appropriate. In the long and empty corridor, only the alternation of candlelight and moonlight makes this road less boring. Blanca, who was walking at the end, looked up from time to time, looked at the teacher's back, and then immediately lowered her head, as if she felt that just a few more glances would make the teacher notice. It was not until she entered her room and calmed down for more than 10 minutes that she confirmed that all this was true. She really became a student of the furnace that saved her and then created several major events in Fabreau City. A sudden knock on the door woke Blanca up, and she hurried to the door. "Who is it?" Ahriman." Hearing that it was Ahriman, Blanca was even a little disappointed. She thought the teacher would come to tell her something. After entering Blanca's room, Ahriman did not go in. He stood at the door and said, "Blanca, I heard you tonight, you got a list with the criminals of the Blood Mist Night and the Sacrifice Night." "It is a list, but it is some information inside the police station. It records the people who contributed the most to the parliament and made significant or outstanding contributions during the Blood Mist Night and the Sacrifice Night. That is the criminal list. I want to see that list and do something. I should not be able to get such a document from the Internal Trial Office. The teachers are all staying in Lehman Town, proving that Fabreau City is now heavily guarded." "Okay, I'll give it to you." Blanca took out a few folded papers from her police uniform jacket and handed them to Ahriman. She asked, "Ahriman, do you want this list? Are you going to do anything to the people on this list?" "Of course, the people on this list can't live too long, otherwise I will feel uncomfortable." "I understand. We were desperate at the beginning. You wanted to take revenge on these people even if you died. I also wanted to do this in the end. But now we have a teacher, do we still have to be so anxious?" Ahriman shook his head. "Blanca, you are good in every way, but you have a common problem among women. You are not decisive enough. It is true that we have a teacher now. At this time, we should rely on the teacher's power to fulfill the belief that evil will be punished. The teacher just said that the Red Wolf King is dead, and the Blood Clan Fast is also dead. The teacher's terrible reputation comes from hunting down the president and vice president of Fabreau City Council. You see, the teacher is doing the same thing, but the teacher has eliminated the big figures in those disasters. The teacher's energy is limited, and the main culprit and the accomplice cannot be spared. We can completely help the teacher to deal with those evil people who are not worthy of the teacher's action. This is why the teacher accepted me as a student, and this is also the reason why the teacher is willing to help you after you showed the courage to die with the blood clan of the Ravno family. Our behavior will definitely be rewarded by the teacher, and this list will be returned to you tomorrow." After saying that, Ahriman took the list and left. After Ahriman left, Blanca felt that what she was doing was getting crazier and crazier. As a wizard, hiding in the police station was already very exaggerated, and now she has become a student of the furnace. Sheriff Kelita was very good to her. I don't know if she will be sad after Sheriff Kelita knows so many secrets that she has kept from her. Blanca didn't want to deceive the sheriff, but after telling the sheriff, she would encounter things that she could not predict. The next day, the three of them took the train back. On the train, everyone made way for the three people from the official organization. When the train arrived at the transfer station, which was the foot of the mountain where the Wolf King tribe was located, Ahriman and Blanca followed their teacher off the train. While climbing the mountain, Blanca whispered, "Isn't the Wolf King dead? What is the teacher doing here? Shh. Don't ask around." In the Wolf King tribe on the top of the mountain, Blanca saw the silver-haired White Wolf King. Against her snow-like skin, her silver hair seemed to emit a hazy glow that even the sun couldn't cover. The days in the Wolf King tribe were boring because the teacher and the Wolf King disappeared. 3 days later, Ahriman and Blanca saw the teacher again. On the way down the mountain, Rudolph was still very slow. Blanca whispered to Ahriman from behind, "What did the teacher and the Wolf King do?" Looking at the innocent Blanca, Ahriman was very speechless. "Don't tell anyone about the teacher and the new Wolf King, and don't ask too much. You just need to know that the teacher and the new Wolf King disappeared for 5 days last time, and only disappeared for 3 days this time. Is there anything that takes 5 days or 3 days to do?" Ahriman had no idea how to answer. The point was that the number of days was reduced by 2 days. Why didn't Blanca understand anything? After returning to Lehman Town, Blanca returned to the police station, and Rudolph and Ahriman returned to the casino. Casino manager Koshino immediately handed the reply document from the municipal trial office to Rudolph. "Mr. Rupert, here are the documents, waiting for you to open them." Rudolph opened them and saw that the first document was a response to the investigation report on the attack on the farmer. The tribunal really didn't care about this matter and just said to archive it. The second document was about Ahriman's identity certificate as a witch hunter. The municipal tribunal could not equip Rupert with a complete team of witch hunters, so Rupert would develop his own team in Lehman Town, and the municipal tribunal would of course agree. After handing the identity certificate to Ahriman, Rudolph went out and prepared to find Sam. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 469. After leaving Lemang Town for about 10 days, he came back again and found that Lemang Town had undergone many changes in a short period of time. He saw many people shopping on the streets of the town. Rudolph soon discovered that all these changes were due to the opening of a tailor shop in the town. These people are no longer dressed like refugees, they have better clothes. Changing clothes, even linen clothes, as long as there are no holes, can make a big difference in their mental outlook. Of course, all this is inseparable from bank loans. The Alchemy Parliament passed a bill to support special loans issued by banks to refugees, allowing them to have the start-up capital to start a new life. Xuanhuan United Bank, which implements this plan, has opened a bank branch in Lehman Town to mainly approve loans to refugees. Refugee miners have the best qualifications, while refugee farmers also have acceptable qualifications. It is difficult for the remaining refugees who have not found a job to apply for loans. The annual loan interest rate is 15%, which is a bit high for refugees, but it is still affordable. Rudolph walked through the town and came to the police station. It was already night, so he released Vanya's level 5 castle bat and asked the bat to find the person he wanted to find. Sam used to be a patrol officer in Lemon Town, but unfortunately he became a vampire because of blood donation. He was nostalgic for the Lemon Town police station and Kelida. Rudolph guessed that he should be hiding near the police station at this time. The bats in the castle continued to emit ultrasonic waves that ordinary people could not hear. Soon, many people responded to these ultrasonic waves. Anyone who responded or avoided them was a vampire. After eliminating several suspicious persons, Rudolph quickly found Sam. Sam lives in a house not far from the police station. Like the refugees, it can be lived in even if it has a roof after simple repairs. When he opened the door and saw a man with a square face, Sam was confused. He didn't recognize the person in front of him. "Are you Sam? A friend of yours asked me to bring you news. This is a letter of introduction. With this letter of introduction, you can go to the Fast family castle in the Ruhr mining area. The Fast family will prepare an ancient coffin for you to sleep in during your promotion." Any other vampire would have jumped with joy after hearing such news, but Sam frowned at the first moment. The first is that he has a special identity. He is a remnant of the Lehman Town police station and has a dirty background. Therefore, he has been carefully hiding himself to avoid entering the site of the police station and the trial court. Second, he was unwilling to leave Lehman Town at this time. The wooden door hinges creaked, and Sam was about to close the door. Wait. This is a token. Rudolph knew that his current disguise would cause Sam to misunderstand, so he prepared a token. This is the infinity revolver that Rudolph has used before and that Sam has also seen. When he saw the revolver, Sam already understood that the square-faced man in front of him must be Rudolph's. Sam stepped aside and motioned for the square-faced man to come in. "I let you in because I don't want you to be noticed by others outside. As for this letter and what you just said, if you can, please tell him. I know he is doing it for my own good, but I am not planning to be promoted recently. I need to sleep, I have more important things to do, and I will go to sleep after everything is over." Rudolph couldn't help but shook his head and said, "The gentleman told me, if it's because of Kelida, please don't worry, he will help take care of Kelida and won't let anything happen to Kelida." Sam thought after thinking and said, "I think it's not necessary. Kelida is in very good condition now. It would be nice to have less contact with her before. At least the trial office will not monitor her so strictly." The old Sam couldn't even get close to Kelida because Kelida was surrounded by witch hunters. After a long period of control with no results, there were far fewer witch hunters around Kelida. Sam said, "I am now a level 1 vampire with a lifespan of 200 years. I have made a decision. After spending her life with Kelida, I will be promoted and go to sleep again." The square-faced man nodded and said, "Your words are in the prediction of that gentleman." The gentleman also said that with the improvement of Cri Theta level, the danger she encountered would be more and more terrible. "Your current level is of no use to Kelida. Level 1 vampires can only control castle bats. The gentleman said that he hopes you become a level 2 vampire, so that you will have the ability of bat wings, your abilities will be qualitatively improved, and you can do more for Kelida. If you can become a level 3 vampire and master the blood cut line, your attack power will be even more impressive." The square-faced man raised his hand to stop Sam from speaking. He continued, "As for the time issue, the gentleman also said that he asked the Fast family to prepare an ancient golden coffin for you, and the sleeping time will be greatly reduced. You will start from the level 1 vampire. It will take no more than 2 years to be promoted to level 2 vampire. Accept this letter, maybe you will change your mind one day." After putting down the letter, Rudolph left here. He has done all he can and hopes that this former friend will not get into trouble. This stupid man who believes in silent companionship, he deserves a better opportunity. That night, Sam stood on the balcony, looking in the direction of the police station, without changing his position for a long time. In the police station at night, the most indispensable thing is people who make trouble after drinking. Within an hour, Sam saw 3 waves of people being brought to the police station for drinking. This seemed to be the eternal theme of the night at the police station. Kelida only has 2 patrolmen, one of whom needs to patrol the town. In fact, it is Kelida and another patrolman who deal with these people in the police station. The staff is extremely short and they are completely overwhelmed. Seeing Kelida busy at the door from time to time, Sam felt that what Rudolph asked someone to bring might be right. His current ability cannot be a helper for Kelida. The next day, Sam was insomniac all day and lay in bed tossing and turning. Finally, Sam picked up the letter and decided to go to the Fast family castle in the Ruhr mining area. Wrapping himself tightly, Sam got on the closed carriage for blood servant miners and went to the mining area. When he found the mine manager Brian according to the instructions in the letter, he was still very nervous. Because the mine manager Brian is a level 4 vampire, much higher than his level. In fact, Brian is more nervous than him. This is a vampire who is deliberately cared for by the furnace, and he certainly dare not neglect him. Leading Sam to a VIP guest room, Brian said, "Tomorrow during the day, when most of the vampires in the family fall asleep, you go in through the secret door and walk straight to the core area of the castle. I will wait for you there and take you to the ancient golden coffin." Sam did not ask why. The next day, according to Brian's request, he walked deep into the castle from the tunnel. This tunnel is one of the escape routes for the vampire high-level officials, and there is no one inside. After walking for an unknown period of time, Sam saw another door, and Brian was waiting at the door. For the rest of the journey, Brian took Sam to walk on the same remote corridor, and finally entered a long hall through a side door. At the end of the long hall, there was a golden coffin. The instinctive throbbing from the vampires made Sam understand the difference of the golden coffin. "What is that?" "That is the ancient golden coffin used exclusively by our ancestor Fast." "What about your ancestor Fast?" "Sam is a vampire of the destroyed Ravno family, and has no blood connection with the Fast family." "Ancestor, didn't that lord tell you?" "Ancestor Fast's relics were taken away, and his body was swallowed by a giant snake and disappeared without a trace." Sam felt that this was indeed Rudolph's style. Not only did he kill someone else's ancestor, but he also put a fake one in. Sam felt a little embarrassed. Lying in the golden coffin, Sam didn't think much about it. After he fell asleep, no matter what happened in Lehman Town, it had nothing to do with him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 470. After learning that Sam had gone to the Fast family's castle, except for occasionally going to the Wolf King tribe for a few days, Rudolph no longer went out and stayed patiently in the basement of the casino, quietly waiting for the harvest of winter plowing. Time flies quickly, and as long as Rudolph doesn't cause trouble, there will be no big things in Fabro City. At the end of January, Rudolph went to the farm and saw that the oats cultivated in the winter had begun to bend in the farmland. The spy of Earl Golden Anchor, Church followed Rudolph and stood together in the dense forest next to the farmland to ensure that no one could see them. "Mr. Rupert, the winter plowing harvest is very good, and we have completed the tasks you assigned us well. It is indeed outstanding. As far as I know, the order given to you by Earl Golden Anchor is to destroy the production here. As long as you don't mess around, winter plowing will be fine." After his original purpose was revealed, Chechi was still a little embarrassed, but fortunately he was an experienced spy, so the awkward look in his eyes only flashed away. "Mr. Rupert, not only did we not cause sabotage, but we also did a lot of practical things secretly. In recent times, apart from our efforts, for some reason, the insect high priests have been particularly active. They are as kind as the real ones in the legend. Like the harvest goddess." Insect's high priest. Rudolph pondered for a long time. He didn't know what the insect's high priest was going to do. He hoped that the evil god priest would not come to ruin Rudolph's plan, otherwise the plan to destroy the temples in Fabro City would be advanced. A lot of church. Next you ask your people to start building momentum and tell everyone who can tell, just say that the winter plowing in Lehman Town has a bumper harvest. Finally, organize a celebratory parade among the refugees to celebrate the harvest. The bigger the fanfare, the better. Okay, Mr. Rupert. News of the farm's bumper harvest first spread among the refugees, and then spread among the refugees. Many refugees excitedly told each other. Even farmers living as far away as Fabreau City came to the farm in Lehman Town one by one and inspected the farmland accompanied by the farm steward. Seeing the dense wheat fields that could not be blown down by the wind, everyone sighed for their wisdom in the past. A few months ago, dangers abounded outside urban areas where there were no shielding towers. When Parliament called on farmers to reorganize production, many people did not agree. Farmland is very fragile. Wolf tides, furnaces, insect plagues, any disaster can cause the farmland to lose its harvest. Only those farmers who are brave or those farmers who have suffered huge losses will go to the surrounding towns to try their luck. Unexpectedly, with very little resources invested, the refugees themselves would borrow money from banks to get their farms up and running again, and the farmers who controlled the land would get a big share of the harvest. The grain harvest is about to be bumper, which will be a huge amount of income for these farmers. Under the statistics of Mayor Baines, he came up with an estimated yield of winter plowing, which is exciting. Mayor Baines went to the city council to report the good news to the speaker. When he entered the parliament building, everyone gave him the most sincere smile. Even those who didn't know him had heard of the 6 town mayors who were sent out. Some people think that these 6 mayors are unlucky people and scapegoats. The 6 surrounding towns are shabby and poor, and they may encounter wizards. It is really too dangerous. Some people think that these 6 mayors are greedy people who are seeking fame and reputation. They are using their lives to gain a promotion opportunity. No matter what kind of evaluation, it will not affect other people's continuous praise of their courage when they see these expatriate mayors. Baines is one of the outlying mayors and the most dangerous mayor of Lehman Town. At this time, he entered the parliament building with his chest raised and his head raised, because he knew that he would be commended by the speaker. Speaker Arden was successfully promoted to level 5 alchemist in December last year and became the official city speaker. After entering the speaker's office, Baines met acting Speaker Arden. I don't know why, but since Mr. Arden became the speaker, his demeanor has become more kind and full of kindness to everyone. Before Baines could get down to business, Speaker Arden praised him for several minutes. This was a courtesy he would receive every time he came to see the speaker. Every time he left the speaker's office, Baines felt deeply that his original decision was the right one. He went to the most dangerous place, made the greatest contribution, and then received the greatest reward. After the speaker finished his praise, Baines placed a report on the desk in front of the speaker. Mr. Speaker, please take a look. This is the estimated output of this year's winter plowing. I can briefly tell you that this year's winter plowing in Lehman Town will have a bumper harvest, and the output can even reach 70% before the wolf tide. Percent. You know, that's way more than expected, considering the town of Lehman was already devastated by the wolf tide. I originally thought that it would be a blessing if the winter plowing yield could reach 40% of what it was before the wolf tide. Unexpectedly, it turned out to be 70%. I think this is a good news and deserves our vigorous publicity. Speaker Arden looked down at the document, the joy on his face unstoppable. After such a long time, we finally waited for good news. This is indeed a great harvest that surprised me. As far as I know, other towns can only achieve 30% of their peak performance, and Lehman Town's results are really dazzling. This good harvest not only means that our refugee reception policy is correct, but also solves our urgent need. Baines is also a member of the House of Representatives, and he immediately understood what the speaker was talking about as an urgent matter. The Fabreau City Council now has 2 important tasks, and the Superior Council requires them to do 2 things. The first thing is to do a good job in the logistics of the Constitutional Army. To the south of Fabreau City is Mayotte, which is adjacent to the Kingdom of Elba. Now a large number of Constitutional Army are gathering in Mayotte in the name of military exercises, ready to send troops to help the Elbe Alchemy Council at any time to block the increasingly powerful restoration army of the Elbe royal family. The second thing is to do a good job in refugee resettlement. Settle the refugees sent from the border to prevent these refugees from becoming unrest factors, and also increase the labor force of the Carolingian Alchemy Council. What makes Yadin excited now is that these two things have become one thing. The reception of refugees is good, and a lot of food is harvested, which can be transported to the assembled Carolingian Constitutional Army, and the two sides complement each other. The Fabreau City Alchemy Council has achieved such exciting results under high pressure. If the news spreads, it will definitely be exciting. They have had a hard time in the past few months, and the heavy pressure comes from the most stringent sentinels in every corner of Fabreau City. In order to deal with the furnace, the Court of Inquiry set up sentry points on the ground to check the identities of people coming and going, deployed patrolling airships in the sky, and used mobile shielding signal towers to provide security for the city of Fabreau. As long as the furnace is not captured, the witch hunters of the Court of Inquiry will not leave. Especially when there are so many constitutional troops in Mayotte, the safety of the rear is even more important. Baines, when you go back, organize a harvest celebration. It must be grand. It must be solemn. This is the County Council's letter, inviting the County Council Speaker Mr. Obed to attend the celebration. The refugee reception work was promoted by the County Council Speaker Mr. Obed. Now it is the harvest season, of course, Mr. Obed should come to inspect and celebrate with us. Baines heard that even the County Council Speaker might go to his still somewhat dilapidated town, and couldn't help asking, but what about security issues? The threat of the furnace has not dissipated, and it is like a dark cloud hovering over the city of Fabreau. It doesn't matter, we can't stop doing normal work because we are afraid of the furnace. In Yadin's mind, a voice was extremely strong. Yadin, this is a proof of your ability. It is your last carnival. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 471. News spread around that the Harvest Festival was about to be held in Lehman Town, and soon, 2 trial hall airships arrived in Lehman Town. I heard that County Speaker Abate and City Speaker Arden will come to Lehman Town to participate in the Harvest Festival. The witch hunters from the trial hall are here to do safety precautions in advance. At the entrance of the casino, Rudolph looked up at the Judgment Hall airship in the sky, with some expectation in his heart. It was time to put an end to the farce in Fabreau City. In the grain dump that was being prepared, Church was sitting in the straw, looking up at the airship in the trial hall, especially the mobile shielding tower behind the airship. Hidden in the straw under him was a kite shield, which was a level 5 witchcraft loaned to him by Mr. Rupert. Next, he will use this level 5 witchcraft to deal a heavy blow to Vichy County, the most popular county in the Elbe Civil War. There was a cave in the mountains far away from Lehman Town. Yvonne stood at the entrance of the cave, looking in the direction of Lehman Town and watching the trial hall airship land in the town. Lehman Town has changed a lot for safety reasons. She has not had the opportunity to enter Lehman Town. I hope that after tonight, there will be a new order here, allowing Yvonne to come and go freely. In the cemetery outside the town of Lehman, Cooper walked out of the Gravekeeper's hut. He calculated the remaining area of the cemetery and predicted how many people could be buried. The trial hall airship landed in the backyard of the police station. Pina, the head of the equipment department, directed the witch hunters to unload angle steel one by one and led the technicians to quickly assemble the shielding signal tower. A new shielded signal tower will be erected on the roof of the police station in the future. The Judicial Office of Fabreau City submitted several applications for the town of Lehman. The court considered that the town of Lehman was of no value and there was no need to install a fixed signal tower. It's different now. I heard that many big shots are coming to participate in the Lehman Town Harvest Festival. This place will become a successful pilot project for the Carolingian Kingdom to accept refugees. When a flag is displayed, its value will suddenly increase. After the signal tower was built, Ahriman found Rudolph and said, "Teacher, that signal tower makes me feel uncomfortable all over." "It doesn't matter, that tower will fall down soon." In the courtyard of the police station, Blanca did not dare to mobilize her star power at all, for fear of being detected by the signal tower. The sun's rays will cover all the stars during the day, and the wizard cannot replenish his star power during the day. In the future, when replenishing star power at night, it is better to stay as far away as possible. It is best to patrol the outskirts of the town and replenish star power in the farthest place. A few days later, County Speaker Obaid came to Fabreau City. Not only did he come himself, he also invited other important figures. When Arden looked up at the big shots on the side of the airship, he was panicked for a moment, but he quickly adjusted. After Obaid got off the gangway, he said to Arden, "Come, Speaker Arden, I will introduce you to some gentlemen who care about the development of Fabreau City and came here specifically to participate in the Harvest Festival. This is Mr. Williams, the Deputy Speaker of the Aube Province. He was originally going to Mayotte City to attend a joint military and political meeting. After hearing that there was a good harvest here, he deliberately changed his itinerary. This is Major General Bale, the Director of the Munitions Department of the 19th Army of the Constitutional Army. I was very surprised to hear that you can provide more munitions supplies, and I specifically asked to come to your Harvest Festival. This is..." Obaid introduced them one by one, and Arden bent down to salute them. The current output of Lehman Town is not enough to cause much qualitative change in the military supply, but the symbolic significance is very important. If the food needed by the army can be provided nearby, it will be a great thing for the army and the parliament. The cost of transporting a ton of grain from here to the front is much lower than collecting it from the hinterland and then transporting it. Williams, the deputy speaker of the province, found Yevgeny, the deputy director of the provincial judicial office, behind Arden. He motioned for Yevgeny to come over. "Yevgeny, it's been a few months since you came to Fabreau City. I read your report, but you still failed to kill the furnace." Yevgeny also felt very embarrassed, since the last time the furnace killed Deputy Speaker Jim in the Parliament chamber, he has not taken action again. "I have not found any traces of him. But I have an intuition that the furnace is still nearby. He was lurking, observing, and preparing to continue committing crimes." Williams said, "As soon as possible, the situation on the front line is very tense. The Elbe Restoration Army has won several battles and has advanced the front line for more than 100 kilometers. It will soon suppress the industrial area of the Elbe Alchemy Council. Once their industrial zone is lost, they will lose all supply capabilities, and the defeat of the front line will be even more irreversible. We are also preparing nervously for war. At this critical moment, safety as big as a furnace is not allowed so close to the front line. Hidden danger." Yevgeny said quickly, "I understand, I will definitely solve the furnace in the shortest possible time. Please rest assured during this trip to Lehman Town, I will ensure safety." Williams is not very worried about safety, because the 19th Army has also lost many people, and the Army's combat effectiveness is no weaker than that of the Judgment Hall. This group of senior parliamentarians who were originally going to the front line changed their route and headed to Lehman Town to participate in the Harvest Festival of Lehman Town, a harvest festival led by refugees. Carts of oats were pushed by refugee farmers towards the barns in the town. At the door of the barn, there will be a grain merchant who will buy the grain after carrying the load. The refugees handed over part to the farmer, kept part for themselves, and sold part. Although the money they sold was not much, it was enough to repay half of the loan. If they can get a good harvest next fall, they will not only be able to fully repay the loan, but they will also have some money left over. The refugees waiting anxiously looked forward, hoping that it would be their turn as soon as possible, and they didn't know if the grain merchants had tampered with the scales. The refugees who had sold all their grain sat around the grain field, watching others line up and pointing at their grain carts. "You can't do this, why is there so little? It's better not to come, keep as much as you can eat." "You can't do this either, there are so many, did you put a wooden basin underneath to make it look like you planted a lot?" "Old Neil, take a look at your oats, are they about to sprout? Why are there still some black ones?" Amid laughter and scolding, the grain in the barn became more and more. At the busiest time, more than a dozen airships flew over the horizon. Various flags were flying on the airships, some of which were from the provincial parliament and some from the Constitutional Army. The relatively familiar flagship of the 56th Regiment of the Constitutional Army, the Silver Flame, could only be ranked at the end of the team, proving that the people in front were all big shots. Rudolph looked at the still strong sun in the afternoon, put on his hood, and walked towards the grain field. The divination was done last night, and the result was acceptable. The reason why Rudolph was restrained when facing the judgment hall was because there was a level 5 word spirit in the judgment hall, and he could not trust the divination result completely. Rudolph walked forward silently. Yadin would persuade those big shots to attend a bonfire party in the evening. If they stayed, he would do it here. If they did not stay, he would do it on the way back to Fabreau City. In short, there must be a result tonight.